some Democrats in Congress are renewing calls to expand the number of U.S. Supreme Court justices from 9 to 13.
As we expected, the decision comes out in the Dobbs case. So is there any hesitation in time between when the Democrats get that decision and when they say, we got to pack the court? Yeah, about 3 days.
We can't vote them out. And so what do we have to do? We must expand the court.
Congressman Hank Johnson and Senator Ed Markey are pushing legislation to add 4 seats to the Supreme Court. They say that could restore balance to a court they believe is too conservative leaning.
Originally, it was going to be 15 justices. Now they're saying 4. Yeah, they came up with 4, which would put the court at 13. So still keeping it an odd number because they have to keep it an odd number. If a Republican administration did this, a conservative administration did this, the screaming would be from the rooftops.
And right now, 6 unhinged, unelected Supreme Court justice is literally telling women they have no control over their bodies.
President Biden has said that he is opposed to the move. He doesn't want to see that happen.
I don't think it would pass the United States Senate at this moment. You've got people like Senator Mark Kelly, Senator John Tester saying that they're opposed to it. Interestingly enough, Jay, even though he's not a member of the United States Senate, even Governor Newsom says that he's not in favor of this as recently as last year.
What is so patently obvious here is that they are willing to politicize the court because they view the abortion decision as a political decision.
And they're just getting started. These radical right-wing justices have already undermined justice.
I know many of our residents, they don't have another day, another year, another, term, another election to wait for transformative change. This is our time. We were in control. Let's act like it.
They've done this in response to a decision that they not only don't like, they subverted the entire Supreme Court process as it was coming out, even before it was coming out.
A plea for help from the mayor of New York as immigrants overwhelm shelters in America's largest city. This follows similar complaints from Washington, D.C.'s Mayor Muriel Bowser. Both she and Mayor Eric Adams say that new immigrants to the country, part of the unprecedented number of those crossing into the country for asylum, are putting a strain on local resources.
New York promoted itself as being being a sanctuary city, that they wanted people that were coming in the country illegally were welcomed in Manhattan. Welcomed in New York.
Mayor Adams says the city urgently needs federal money and resources to provide support. The city says more than 2,800 people from Latin America and other regions entered the shelter system over the last several weeks.
This is a real burden on New Yorkers as we're trying to do the right thing. We already, as I stated, we already have an overburdened shelter system. So now we're talking about, as you stated, food, clothing, school.
Whether you're living in Texas, or Arizona or California border states, or whether you're in Manhattan or Atlanta or a town in Mississippi, this situation with an unregulated, unprotected border is wreaking havoc.
What is happening at the border is a result of a policy failure of the Biden administration.
We know how to stop this, but it's a political decision to allow this suffering, and enough is enough is enough.
A spokesperson for Governor Abbott, remember they blamed Texas for sending these people to New York, said that the state has only bused migrants to Washington, D.C., and only if they wanted to go there. And he said that's been about 5,100 people. Then the quote is, if these Democratic mayors are now that concerned about having migrants in their cities, they should call on President Biden to do his job and secure the border instead of attacking Texas with baseless political accusations. The same could be said of Arizona. They didn't send anybody there either. But this is the way it's being politicized now.
Democrats took to the street, literally blocking the street between the U.S. Capitol and the Supreme Court, protesting the High Court's decision on abortion.
17 members of the United States Congress decided they were going to make a statement in front of the Supreme Court of the United States blocking access on the sidewalks. And what is interesting about this, of course, is the Capitol Police had to respond to it. They were detained. They see their hands behind the back, except look what's not there. Handcuffs. None of them were handcuffed.
Capitol Police didn't handcuff Ocasio-Cortez. She just put her hands behind her back for show, but later performed a fist pump to cheering supporters looking on. Others busted: squad members Ayanna Pressley, Ilhan Omar, Cori Bush, and Rashida Tlaib.
This was a stunt. People immediately recognized it. It wasn't something they got away with for even 5 seconds. You look at the person that's right next to AOC, hands are fully, exposed and are moving around. At one point, AOC herself breaks her own fake handcuffs, lifts her arm up in a protest, and then goes right back to it, I think probably realizing, oh no, I just kind of broke that illusion.
The police were like, this is actually a traffic area. You're not allowed to protest here. You could probably protest over there, no problem.
That's called an obstruction violation. It's a $50 fine. They had a table set up to prepare for these arrests. So obviously they knew they were coming. So this is totally a political stunt, but it takes the time and resources of the Capitol Hill police to do this.
A huge percentage of people who are AOC fans, and she knows this, are going to see a 5-second video of her slowly walking away with her hands behind her back like she has been handcuffed. They are never going to do any research beyond that.
I represent an Operation Rescue. They were pro-life protesters. Some were simply engaged in pamphleteering. Others, quote, blocked access. That's the same thing these people were doing. This is what actually happened to pro-life protesters. This is for real. I mean, they're dragged away from the scene.
Conservatives and the liberals are actually coming out against it, again, saying stuff like you're saying, which is a waste of people's time. It doesn't help anyone. Everything becomes a conspiracy theory out of it because you look at it and go, well, why would you do this? Again, as you said, wasting time and spending all of this effort to really mislead people.
One of Iran's top advisors has claimed the country is capable of building a nuclear bomb. The advisor has said the country is currently enriching uranium up to 60%, could easily produce 90% enriched uranium.
The advisor said they're capable of building a nuclear bomb. They haven't necessarily decided whether or not they're going to, but they have the ability to. And this is a big news for obviously a host of reasons, specifically coming out of just right now, the Middle East trip that President Biden just made.
This is the same Iran, of course, who sides with Russia, supplies terrorist groups around the world, and oh, by the way, wants to assassinate current or former U.S. government officials in retaliation for killing one of their own generals who happened to be a terrorist.
But what we know now is that Iran is at a point which we all feared was coming very soon, where they've got all the capabilities they need. What they are doing is trying to extort something out from the world. Likely that's cash and sanctions relief.
President Biden is kind of cautious on saying he will use the military, but here he says that if it's a last resort, he would use it to prevent Iran from having a nuclear weapon.
This is one of the advisors who said, in a few days, we were able to enrich uranium up to 60%. We can easily produce 90% enriched uranium. Iran has the technical means to produce a nuclear bomb, but there's been no decision by Iran to build one.
U.S. ally Israel is preparing plans to strike Iranian nuclear facilities as the Jewish state last week reiterated its commitment to stopping Iran from obtaining such a weapon.
President Biden in Israel said that they had actually delivered their final offer to the Iranian government, and that if they signed it, they would go forward with the agreement. And yet in that agreement, it allows Iran to have access again to billions and billions of dollars with no restraints on their ballistic missile system.
The U.S. right now may not be posed to strike, but there are other countries, not just Israel, who are going to be very uncomfortable after this statement is out now by a top advisor to the Ayatollah, who are not going to be so patient with Iran. And I think, unfortunately, we could be on the cusp of another conflict, and a major conflict.